Rotface is quite simple boss. He only has a few mechanics. First mechanic is Slime Spray. He does AoE towards a random target and anyone in front of him receives damage. As a melee, you should always go back behind the boss if he's spitting your way, and that way you can avoid taking damage. On the edges of the room there are 8 canisters with green slime. They're kind of grouped out into 4 groups, so there's 2 on each side. Whenever they start leaking ooze from these pipes, they're going to spawn a huge slime pool. You should not be in this slime pool. It slows you down, it deals damage. On heroic it will even root you in place after some time, so be careful about that. You need to be moving before the slime actually appears. So once the slime starts leaking, that's when you move out. Next thing we're going to talk about are the uses. Now first of all, you get a debuff called Mutated Infection. It deals damage to you and it reduces the healing taken by 50% or 75% on heroic. Now that debuff needs to be dispelled. Once it's dispelled or it expires, it spawns a small ooze attacking you. What you need to do with the ooze is different depending which ooze you get. If you get the first ooze, you just run to the edge of the room and look away from the boss towards the nearest wall, okay? The reason you're doing that, looking away from the boss that is because the ooze spits small green slime pools that spawn in the direction that you're looking at. So if you're looking at the boss, they spawn towards the boss. If you look towards the wall, they spawn in the wall and they're not bothering anyone. Okay? Now that's if you get the first ooze and there are no other oozes alive. If there is any other ooze alive and you get the next ooze, what you need to do is go to that ooze. Once the oozes touch, they link, merge, and then they become a big ooze. Okay? If there is already a big ooze, even better, you just go to the big ooze. Once your ooze touches the big ooze, they merge, and that's it. Now, once the ooze reach a certain amount of stacks, they will explode, okay? That explosion targets every single person in the raid, okay? At the moment of the explosion, that's when it targets, okay? So there's 2 options to avoid this. 1, run all the way to the wall because no one is ever there, meaning the AoE will not hit there. Second option is easier one, but it requires you to know what to do, and that is to move to a position where no one stood at the moment of the explosion. So if the explosion happened now, if you just move to a position where no one else stood at that moment, you will not be receiving any damage, and you can continue doing whatever you were doing, DPSing, healing, and everything else. Now another thing that will be happening only on heroic is Valgas. Valgas is a debuff that disorients you, basically stuns you, and it deals damage to you and around you, okay? Also, if you're close to someone else and you get the Valgas, they get Valgas too, and so on and so on. So it could be a chain reaction. If you get the Valgas in the middle of the raid, you can cause a wipe. Valgas only targets people who are away from the boss, so not melees or not anyone close to the boss, okay? And now, however, if you get the Valgas while you're away and then get under the boss, that's the thing I talked about, and it can cause a wipe, okay? So just before getting back under the boss, for example, if you had the ooze, you need to check if the Valgas has passed. If it is, then you're free to go back. That's also a reason why healers stand under the boss, so they can reach everyone on all corners of the room, and they can also avoid getting Valgas, meaning they can heal all the time. One more thing for the tanks. One of the tanks will tank the boss and stay in the middle of the raid, and the other tank will need to tank the ooze. Whenever you tank the ooze, you need to make sure it doesn't hit you. You need to stay at least 15 to 20 yards away from it and get aggro on it. Also, the tank tanking the ooze needs to make sure that he's looking away from the raid towards the wall for the same reasons mentioned before.